Hi, everybody. It is, what is it? April 28, 2018. How many millions have been killed in America's post 9/11 wars? We are a killing machine, and that machine is operating in so many countries all over the world, and we are causing so much destruction, suffering, and I am really sick and disgusted with Americans who just want to believe the lies. Well, one thing is absolutely true. Americans now are getting what they deserve. Sorry. The gross immorality that we have been living, this pretense that we are better than, this exceptionalism, moral superiority, I support my troops, believing the lies, even when those lies get exposed. The majority believe the next lie that comes at them. It is true. The truth is very demanding. Lies don't demand anything. People can just go on living their life without having to do a thing. But all of this is brought about in our name. Sorry, I can't separate myself from what my government is doing. Oh, okay, I know our government is not a government, it's a corporation. Got it. You don't have to leave a comment pointing that out. And believing our military, believing that we are taking humanitarian efforts. And yet, Americans know those humanitarian efforts look like this: bombing campaigns where we're killing innocent people. But the pretext is that we're saving those people, right? Well, yeah, uh, we bomb to save the innocent people in whatever country we're bombing because we've got to save them from their crazy dictator. I'm sorry, I think most Americans know they're being lied to on a daily basis. I think they know that our military is just, it's run amok. It's a killing machine. We go into countries to steal their resources and colonize them. I think most Americans know that, but they love to just go along with this lie, which makes this country rather schizophrenic. And yeah, I am very tired of it. The numbers. The numbers, even if one person died due to our bombing campaigns to save them, that would be a tragedy. But the numbers are staggering. Nicholas Davies, the author of this article, did a comprehensive study, extensive research to gather all the documents he possibly could to find out how many. But there's no way to find out how many people have died either directly or indirectly because of our U.S. military. You know, countries that the United States has attacked and destabilized since 2001, only Iraq has been the subject of comprehensive active mortality studies that can reveal otherwise unreported deaths. An active mortality study is one that actively surveys households to find deaths that have not previously been reported by the news or other published sources like the United Nations, World Health Organization, NGOs in these countries, comprehensive mortality studies in other war-torn countries like Angola, Bosnia, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Guatemala, Iraq, Kosovo, Rwanda, Sudan, Uganda have revealed total numbers of deaths that are 5 to 20 times those previously revealed by passive reporting based on news reports, hospital records, and other human rights investigations. And generally speaking, the deaths reported are deaths due to direct consequences of the war, meaning they got shot or they were hit by a drone strike or bomb. The indirect deaths that occur, the numbers are staggering. Iraq, 2.4 million people. That's Nicholas Davies' estimate. And it was based on accepting the estimates of a 2006 Lancet study, as well as a 2007 Opinion Research Business Survey. So Iraq, 2.4 million people killed. Do you really think that what we are hearing about the overpopulation of the world, you think the number is still at like 7 billion, and by 2030 it's going to be 9 billion, and then by 2050 we're going to have I don't know how many billion? So many people have died since 2001. The numbers that we are hearing, no, the world's population is far less. Afghanistan, 875,000 Afghans killed. Pakistan, 325,000. Estimating the deaths in Libya, Syria, Somalia, Yemen. The U.S. military officers have hailed the U.S. doctrine of covert and proxy war that found its full flowering under the Obama administration, the disguised, quiet, media-free approach to war. And that doctrine can be traced back to the U.S. wars in Central America during the 1980s. The U.S. recruitment, training, command, and control of death squads in Iraq, that was dubbed the Salvador option. U.S. strategy in Libya, Syria, Somalia, and Yemen has in fact followed this model even more closely. And these wars have been catastrophic for the people of those countries. And yes, blood is on all of our hands. Blood is absolutely on the hands of those who are not taking any action to get this stopped. And do I believe it could be stopped? Yes, I do. If Americans would unite and then bring it to a halt. But that is impossible because most Americans don't care. And that is factually true, because if most Americans cared about other people's lives as opposed to only cared about their life, this country would be remarkably different than what it is. We collectively manifest the reality, that reality that we live, and the majority manifests that reality. It's sad to see what we have become. So yes, those wars are catastrophic, but the United States' disguised, quiet, media-free approach to them has been so successful in propaganda terms that most Americans know very little about the U.S. role in the violence and chaos that has engulfed them. And I disagree with that. I do believe that, look, the lies have been exposed. But the next lie, people believe. The public nature of the illegal but largely symbolic missile strikes on Syria on April 14, 2018 stands in sharp contrast to the disguised, quiet, media-free U.S.-led bombing campaign that destroyed many cities Raqqa, Mosul, and several other Syrian and Iraqi cities with more than 100,000 bombs and missiles in 4 years dropped on those countries in 4 years since 2014. And the people of these cities have died like trees falling in a forest where there is no Western reporters or TV crews to record the massacres because the military learned after Vietnam, they learned their lesson. You don't let reporters just report anything and have the freedom to walk around these countries. Instead, you embed them into the military, and you always have military personnel walking around with reporters. Harold Pinter, who won the Literature Nobel in 2005, said this. He was asking of earlier U.S. war crimes. Did they take place? Are they, in all cases, attributable to U.S. foreign policy? The answer is yes, they did take place. And they are, in all cases, attributable to American foreign policy. But you wouldn't know it. It never happened. Nothing ever happened. Even while it was happening, it wasn't happening. It didn't matter. It was of no interest. No interest. I do believe that our unleashed evil all over the world, the bombs dropping, and it's coming here. Oh, our government, our military is already depopulating the United States through the aerosol spraying. And so the list is long, all of the methods. And Americans, they really have lived a privileged life. All of the wars, the bombs don't get dropped here. No, they don't hate us for our freedom. They hate us because we are so grossly, arrogantly, profoundly immoral. Libya. The only legal justification for NATO dropping 7,700 bombs and missiles on Libya and invaded it with special operations forces beginning in February 2011 was a United Nations Security Council resolution back in 1973, which authorized all necessary measures for the narrowly defined purpose of protecting civilians in Libya. So, we protect those civilians by dropping 7,700 bombs. It's embarrassing to be an American today. It's so utterly ludicrous. The idiocy of believing what we hear. It's so, to me, it's just incomprehensible that human beings could live their lives as they do. So, the war in Libya, that humanitarian effort, February and March 2011, the death toll was 1,000. That was the United Nations estimate, to 6,000 according to the Libyan Human Rights League. Well, Nicholas Davies puts that estimate much higher. But just listen to this, please. A Security Council resolution in 1973 expressly prohibited a foreign occupation force of any form on any part of Libyan territory. But NATO and its allies launched a covert invasion of Libya by thousands of Qatari and Western Special Operation Forces, who planned the rebels' advance across the country, called in airstrikes against government forces, and led the final assault on the military headquarters in Tripoli. Credible reports that a French security officer, there are credible reports that a French security officer may even have delivered the coup de grace that killed Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi after he was captured, tortured, and sodomized with a knife. And we had this as a leader. Really?
I mean, that is the land of unconfirmed reports.
Yes, we came, we saw, we died.
This is our leader. Disgusting, psychopathic, a woman who has absolutely no feeling for any life, a woman who has been demonstrating over and over and over again how profoundly sick and twisted she is. And still there are Americans who applaud her. What does that say about those Americans? You know, if you want to, it's remarkable. You just put in, well, I put in this just to get Hillary Clinton's, no, I put in this search to get the videos of Libyans who are out there demonstrating that they supported and loved Gaddafi for what he did for the Libyans. Free education, anybody who got married, I think they got money from the government and a new home. The list is, and we think we have the best way of living. You should listen to this interview that Gaddafi gave just before the Libyan revolution to understand a little bit about who this man was and use your own discernment to figure out if this guy was what we now claim Assad is in Syria, this animal dictator who is killing his own civilians, his own people. You can watch this video, and this is Gaddafi, and he's riding around, and it's so clear. You see how the Libyans come out in their support. It is the evil that we are committing is really unbelievable. Now, I'm not saying he was perfect. I'm not saying, that he's always done just wonderful things. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is what we heard from our government and mainstream media is a complete lie. Oh, they received 50,000. Not bad. Oh, electricity is free. Wow. Yeah, he also gave them clean water. You can watch, I'll link below. But this was also before the Libyan revolution. People came out, thousands upon thousands, in support of their leader, and we have our leaders laughing at this man who was tortured, sodomized with a knife. She laughs. Look, it's in our face. You cannot deny that we are showing our true colors. I'm speaking not of individuals, but collectively, the American people collectively. Foreign Affairs Committee inquiry in the UK in 2016 concluded that a limited intervention to protect civilians drifted into an opportunistic policy of regime change. That was the point. It wasn't that we just seized upon the opportunity, we created the opportunity to seize upon it. Policy of regime change by military means, resulting in political and economic collapse, militia, and intertribal warfare, humanitarian and migrant crises, widespread human rights violations, the spread of Qaddafi regime weapons across the region, and the growth of ISIS in North America. Once the Libyan government was overthrown, journalists tried to inquire about the sensitive subject of civilian deaths, which was so critical to the legal and political justifications for the war, but the National Transitional Council, the unstable new government formed by Western-backed exiles and rebels, they stopped issuing public casualty estimates, ordered hospital staff not to release information to reporters. As in Iraq and Afghanistan, morgues in Libya were overflowing during the war, and many people buried their loved ones in their backyards or wherever they could. This is a line of people waiting to receive food in Libya. 2014, the ongoing chaos and factional fighting in Libya flared up into what Wikipedia now calls a second Libyan civil war. So the estimates are 2,825 in 2014. The estimates of death in 2015 and 2016, well, what a coincidence. The exact same number, 1,523. Another UK-based project, it was the UK-based Armed Conflict Location and Event Data. They put the number at 4,602 deaths, and that is between 2014 and 2016, compared with 5,871 by Libya body count. The numbers, I don't know, a staggering number of people have died because of us, US. Libya body count puts the total at 30,070. Nicholas Davies estimates that 250,000 Libyans had been killed in the war, violence, and chaos that the US and its allies unleashed in Libya in February 2011. And it continues to the present day. The maximum number, 100,000. The disguised, quiet, media-free U.S. role in Syria began in late 2011 with a CIA operation to funnel foreign fighters and weapons through Turkey and Jordan into Syria, working with Qatar and Saudi Arabia to militarize unrest that began with peaceful Arab Spring protests, engineered by not only George Soros, but he funds those NGOs who train people to get into countries to start these, organic, grassroots, peaceful protests. It's the start of the United Nations, United Nations, but US, UK, France, Israel, taking over yet another country. The CIA and its wow, I am having a lot of difficulty talking, and it's very frustrating. The CIA and its Arab monarchist partners eventually funneled thousands of tons of weapons and thousands of foreign al-Qaeda-linked jihadis into Syria. Meanwhile, instead of cooperating with Kofi Annan's UN-backed efforts to bring peace to Syria in 2012, the US and its allies held 3 Friends of Syria conferences where they pursued their own Plan B. And guess what? Kofi Annan quit. He quit in disgust after Secretary of State Clinton and her British, French, and Saudi allies cynically undermined his peace plan. And the rest is history, a history of ever-spreading violence and chaos in Syria. Bombing campaigns that President Obama launched against Islamic State in 2014 is the heaviest bombing campaign since the U.S. war in Vietnam, dropping more than 100,000 bombs and missiles on Syria and Iraq. And Patrick Cockburn, the veteran Middle East correspondent of the UK's independent newspaper, in visiting Raqqa, the formerly Syria's 6th largest city, he wrote, "The destruction is total." Estimating the violent deaths in Syria, you have the Syrian Center for Policy Research, and that organization has been criticized for their numbers. This Syrian Center for Policy Research or what is SOHR? I'm sorry. I have here the Syrian Observatory. Wow, for human rights, based out of the UK. All right. That organization acknowledged that its count cannot be a total estimate of all the people killed in Syria. In its most recent report in March 2018, it added 100,000 to its tally to compensate for underreporting, another 45,000 to account for prisoners killed or disappeared in government custody, and 12,000 for people killed, disappeared, or missing in the Islamic State or other rebel custody. So their March 2018 report documents the deaths of 353,935 combatants and civilians in Syria. As many as 2 million may have been killed. Somalia. Most Americans remember the U.S. intervention in Somalia that led to the Black Hawk Down incident and the withdrawal of U.S. troops in 1993, but most Americans do not remember or may never have known that the U.S. made another disguised, quiet, media-free intervention in Somalia in 2006 in support of the Ethiopian military invasion. Somalia was finally pulling itself up by its bootstraps, but we knocked them back down. Yes, it was the war on terror. The U.S. government identified the Islamic Courts Union as an enemy, and the Islamic Courts Union, they were trying to bring peace to Somalia, but they were an enemy and a target for military action. The U.S. allied with Ethiopia, Somalia's traditional regional rival and a majority Christian country, and conducted airstrikes and special forces operation to support an Ethiopian invasion of Somalia to remove the Islamic Courts Union from power. As in every other country the U.S. and its proxies have invaded since 2001, the effect was to plunge Somalia back into violence and chaos that continues to this day. So, how many killed in Somalia? Well, where 2006, the number could be 20,171 or 24,631, or it could be 4.7 times that number. Or another organization can put it up to 5.8 times 125,000 since the US-backed invasion in July 2006. Could be 625,000, could be 480,000. Nicholas Davies estimates the number between 500,000 and 850,000. Most likely, it's 650,000 violent deaths. Yemen, another humanitarian crisis that, well, we're not going to help Yemen. We're helping Saudi Arabia colonize Yemen. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs estimates the number since December 2017. 9,245 people have been killed, including 5,558 civilians. The World Health Organization acknowledged substantial underreporting of war deaths in Yemen by the United Nations. Nicholas Davies estimates that the number is about 175,000, but it could be 240,000. The true cost of America's wars could be about 6 million people. Could be 5 million, could be 7 million, but it's millions. We have become the evil we deplore. We have become the evil we deplore. We have been the evil that we have been deploring for many, many decades. But now the evil has been unleashed in these countries. We know it, we like to deny it, because we want to live comfortably. Many have already lost their comfort. Many more will continue to lose their comfort. Are we getting what we deserve? Collectively speaking, yeah, absolutely. And we're still getting it in a way that we are not giving it. So Hannah Arendt, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, wrote in The Origins of Totalitarianism, we can no longer afford to take that which is good in the past and simply call it our heritage, to discard the bad and simply think of it as a dead load, which by itself time will bury in oblivion. A subterranean stream of Western history has finally come to the surface and usurped the dignity of our tradition. This is the reality in which we live. It is the reality in which we live. We are not a civilized, dignified, moral people. That is the reality. And so many are clearly delusional.